The unbreakable secret of Damascus steel swords. The Damascus steel is perhaps one of the most mysterious materials to date. Centuries ago, it was known as root steel, and it was known as the finest steel on the entire planet. It was first produced in India, and they were later on transported to Damascus, Syria, where the fine materials were created into swords. These weapons are known for their beautiful patterns and their superior physical characteristics. The Damascus steel was highly valued because it is both hard, flexible, and sharp. Just imagine, this remarkable sword is so sharp and flexible that it was said that it could easily split a feather mid-air. Now, what makes this material so different? Until today, no one can replicate the Damascus steel. The secret recipe of this blade has been lost for many years. There are some Damascus blades and knives out there, but it isn't really similar to the original blade that was created back then. Metallurgists today keep trying to perfect a recipe of the steel, while smiths continue to try and forge the perfect blade. Of course, people have tried to read historical writings to try and solve the mystery behind the Damascus blades. Legend has it that the best blades were forged in dragon blood, while some say that donkey urine helped some medieval smiths also. Allegedly recommended adding the urine of red-headed boys, or that of a goat that only ate ferns for 3 days. The unsolved mystery of the Voynich manuscript, filled with mysterious symbols and mind-boggling illustrations of different herbs. The Voynich manuscript has been one of the many discoveries that left archaeologists scratching their heads. Since it was discovered in 1912, this manuscript remained a mystery and somehow became a cult phenomena. The language in which the text in the manuscript was written is an unknown language or code. Some of the illustrations were recognized to be drawings of medicinal plants, but there's also a mixture of zodiac symbols, alien plants, women, and strange objects in the manuscript. One theory was proposed by a history researcher, and this is perhaps the most logical explanation for the Voynich manuscript. It appears that the Voynich manuscript is a book written as a guide for women's health. The writer seemed to have incorporated a lot of herbal medicines to medical practices in the book, so much so that it won't be surprising that there is some inaccurate information here and there. Furthermore, there are also some allegedly copied images in the manuscript. There's a huge possibility that the book was written to be given as a gift for a specific person. What was the Roman dodecahedron used for? Some famous explanations include the object being a candlestick holder, a flower stand, a staff decoration, a fortune-telling device, a bizarre dice, or simply a children's toy. I can't really say which theory I believe in, but the fact that the dodecahedron was found in many places must mean that it was used as something significant, right? Roman artisans made nanotechnology pioneers 1,600 years ago. This weird property puzzled scientists for many years until researchers found a clue in 1990. Researchers in England examined the glass further, and they discovered that the Roman artisans back then were brilliant nanotechnology pioneers. They managed to incorporate glass with particles of silver and gold in the right size to achieve this color-changing effect. How cool is that? Back then, this was already an amazing feat. But you see, no one really knows why exactly this cup was made. You see, it may have been just a simple fancy design, but there's a possibility that this cup was used to detect liquids. How cool is that? Back then, this was already an amazing feat. But you see, no one really knows why exactly this cup was made. You see, it may have been just a simple fancy design, but there's a possibility that this cup was used to detect liquids. The 4,000-year-old Phaistos disc. Mystery at first glance. You might think that this is just another ancient artifact. In reality, this disc boggled the minds of historians and archaeologists since it was discovered in 1908 in Crete. The Phaistos disc is estimatedly 4,000 years old, created in the Middle or Late Minoan Bronze Age, and no one really knows its purpose. It was considered an enigma, with symbols that no linguist or historian were familiar with. It's one of the greatest archaeological mysteries to this day. The disc is only 5.9 inches in diameter, and both sides are stamped with symbols. Some linguists compared the symbols to ancient Indo-European languages, and they deduced that the inscriptions contain a religious text to a goddess of love. It may contain a hymn before the goddess, and the disc may have been used to seek the blessing of the goddess. However, we're still unsure how much of these translations are true. In fact, some scientists and experts even take into account that there's a possibility that the disc isn't authentic. Perhaps we'll have to wait for a few more years before we can truly decipher the contents of the Phaistos disc.